Donald Trump's trade war with China has been disastrous for farmers in middle America. And these are the very individuals who happen to vote for Trump, and he knows that it's important to do anything that he can do to keep them happy. So as a result, he is offering them a $16 billion aid package. And there is some concern that the money is not actually gonna go to some of these small farmers. It's gonna go to some of these corporations that are also suffering from the trade war. But nonetheless, let me give you some of the details. The centerpiece is cash payments totaling $14.5 billion to producers of a variety of crops, as well as dairy and pork producers impacted by tariffs. US tariff revenue collected by the Treasury would be used to support the program, and that's according to the US Department of Agriculture. Now, before we get to some more of the details of what this aid package contains, I just want to note that recently there was the leader of one of the unions for these farmers who spoke to the press about whether or not these types of aid packages really help the farmers. And here's what she had to say.
It'll help. I'm not going to call it a solution by any means. It'll definitely help. Farmers are in need of some excellent or some financial help at this point, but we need a long-term fix. We don't need band-aids. We need long-term fixes to make sure that farmers are able to survive, whether that's, and we understand what President Trump is doing with China. We've been trying to fix their manipulative trade practices for years, their policies for years, but the way we're going about it may not be the right fix.
So that's Patty Edelberg. She is the VP for the National Farmers Union. And she makes a really great point because this is actually causing long-term damage to a lot of these farmers who are losing business relationships that they've had for a very long time. I mean, the people that they used to trade with or the companies that they used to trade with abroad aren't just gonna wait for the trade war to be over. They're going to develop different relationships with different farmers from different companies. And
in fact, the value of soybean exports to China fell by 74%. Last year was $12.2 billion, now it's down to $3.1 billion. And as all of the farmers have been pointing out, once you lose a trading partner, they find a new partner, and then it'll be incredibly difficult to get them back. Even if the trade war ends tomorrow, it's not like China's gonna say, oh, okay, then I'm going to stop doing business with the farmers in Brazil that I have the new deal with, and I'll go back to you. No, they're gonna keep doing business with the farmers in Brazil. So a lot of that business might be gone for a long time or forever. And so then that gets to these subsidies. Now, if you do a Band-Aid on it, and $16 billion is a lot of money. And by the way, that's us, all of us, taxpayers now having to rescue the farmers because of Trump's mistake. But even so, are we gonna do 16 billion the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that? Because the business is gone, right? And what happened to conservatives who used to say that they were against subsidies and they were—
oh, they love subsidies when it helps them and their chances of re-election. I mean, they're the ones, and Democrats have helped them, who have pushed for oil subsidies and all sorts of, I mean, they love it, So this doesn't surprise me.
I mean, conservatives my whole life have been saying, oh, we hate it when the government picks winners and losers. Now, by the way, the tariffs have hurt a lot of different people, including the consumers, but we get no help.
No.
The government picked winners and losers, and that's your Trump that you're so proud of. Apparently those Republican principles never meant anything. And they sometimes say, oh, Democrats love to give away gifts like Social Security and Medicare. We paid into those our whole lives. They're not gifts, they're not entitlements. They are things that we put money into and are now getting back. Whereas a subsidy is pretty much a gift.
Right, so let's talk a little bit about how they plan to pay for this and how they're twisting things, because I wanna make sure that you're prepared to debunk any talking points you hear from the Trump administration on this. So Sonny Perdue conceded that the federal government can't legally have direct revenue from the tariff payments currently being paid by US importers. So remember, these tariffs are being paid by the people in the country who are importing the products from other countries. And so Sonny Perdue, or at least the Trump administration, is trying to make it seem like, oh, well, those tariffs that are being collected are going to be used to help these farmers out. But it's unclear how that's gonna work out when the government can't legally have direct revenue from the tariff payments currently being paid by US importers. One other issue is that Cenk is absolutely right. We as consumers are gonna have to deal with an increase in prices for a lot of these products because, of course, the costs always get passed down to us. And if you can recall, even Larry Kudlow made that point, which made Trump really, really mad. Here's that interview that Trump was upset about.
Larry, that isn't true. It's not China that pays tariffs, it's the American importers, the American companies that pay what in effect is a tax increase and oftentimes passes it on to US consumers.
Fair enough. In fact, both sides will pay. Both sides will pay in these things. And of course, it depends.
If it's a tariff on goods coming into the country, the Chinese aren't paying because the president says China doesn't. China, it pays the tariffs. They may suffer consequences, but it's US businesses and US consumers who pay, correct?
Yes, to some extent. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
So yeah, Trump was not happy about that answer because Kudlow was actually telling the truth there. And a new study by the IMF indicates that tariffs on Chinese goods have been paid almost entirely by US importers, and the costs are then passed on to US consumers.
No, this is why, as much as the mainstream press criticizes Trump or points out some things he said that aren't true, it's still nowhere near enough the scale of the disaster that Trump is. Trump has repeatedly said that China pays the tariffs. As you just saw there, Chris Wallace from Fox News clearly explains that is not how it works. Anyone can tell you that. Anyone that knows one thing about economics knows that's not how tariffs work. The American companies pay them. And so it's the exact opposite of what Trump is telling you. We make China pay the tariffs. It's not a thing, that's totally not true. And even Kudlow, his top economic advisor, had to say, yeah, that's not true. And then Trump gets mad at his top economic advisor for saying something that is clearly true. The president is mentally unstable. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know basic economics at all, and then will get mad if you know it.
Right.
Like if Kudlow started talking about supply and demand curves, and he'd be like, how dare you? But sir, no, say there are no supply and demand curves.
But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. He wants everyone in his administration to lie on his behalf. I mean, we demonstrated that in the press conference he had today with the farmers, where he hijacked that press conference simply to make a point about Nancy Pelosi. He pointed to all these members of his administration to do his bidding for him. I mean, this is what he wants. He wants people around him to lie for him, to make him look good no matter what.
But there's lies like the one they told today where they said, oh no, sir, you were very calm, sir. You're always calm, sir. Okay, but at least that's not it could be subjective. We know that they were not telling the truth. But they could pretend, well, I thought that decibel level was calm compared to what other things Trump has done.
Right.
But here in this case, he's basically saying something that everyone knows. Like he's saying there's 97 cents in a dollar. And Kudlow is asked, is it true or is there really 100 cents in a dollar? And Kudlow says, well, in a sense, there's 100 cents, right? And then Trump goes, how dare you? I said there's 97 cents, so you go out there and say that. But how can I say that? That's crazy, everybody knows that's not true. And he's like, I don't care, go do it. That is an unstable individual. 25th Amendment right now. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.